Good evening, everyone. I'm going to do a video today on Alien World. I'm not sure what that's going to be, which is part of the fun. I like to actually do journeys into different worlds and experience it in my own way, to see it, to feel it, and to give you a different perspective on what is possible in the universe. I've seen some amazing places, I've felt some amazing places, and I feel blessed for that. It's like when you do these, it activates your imagination into what is possible in the universe. And it also gives us another hope for our world and what we might be able to accomplish someday. See, one of the things that we always forget, we don't live once. We live many, 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 many lifetimes. Our souls are ridiculously diverse. And so we've lived so long and we've seen so many things. And we can go back into that experience to tap into different places, different worlds, different experiences. So when we look at our own world, we shouldn't be looking simply now. Now is where we live and experience, because the only way to truly live is to live in the moment. I'm talking about what is possible for us to go, what is where it's possible and what it is possible to us to achieve. We're capable of doing so much if we get past the greed, the fear. We need to become a group of people that are out to help each other instead of just out for ourselves and our own well-being. It's kind of an archaic way of thinking. And it's kind of weird because we started off working together. Then we separated. And now we need to come back together in order to truly achieve the impossible, to impossible dream, like a dream of traveling the universe. We need to work together on that. It's funny that we used to work together, and we used to be so primitive, they said. But we had no choice at the time because it was so difficult to survive on your own. So now it's possible to survive on your own, so we separate. But realistically, when we come together, we can do amazing things. So sometimes looking at the past helps us realize that one thing that we used to always do out of necessity is one thing that we need to do in order to grow and expand in the universe. Anyway, that's enough. I'm going to talk about that because I know everybody's time is important. So I want to just close my eyes and allow my higher self to take me to a different world, to a different place, a place that is unique and different. And we think so small. On this world, we think of only the world as life as being like this and nothing more. So we limit ourselves to what is possible. We think the world has to be just like Earth in order for life to thrive. If we want to find life that's very similar to us, then maybe that's what we need to do. But what happens to all the other versions of life that are out there? That's why I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. I love all these science fiction shows because they really show what is possible. I know Star Trek has a very heavy military base, but it was mainly designed for structure. But everybody worked together to better themselves. I don't believe that going out into the universe we're going to have to fight our way there. Well, at least the fight would be within ourselves. Because I think when beings grow to a certain point, they set aside things. There might be obviously beings out there that are not so nice. And there's going to be beings out there that are absolutely amazing and beautiful. But we know nothing. We are so small in the universe. We haven't even left our own solar system, barely left our own planet. for us to think that we know is naive and childish, actually. We know nothing. And that's when we truly start to understand the universe. Nasa yurne, nasa nato, nakina, nasoe. I'm just traveling through it'd be like a wormhole in a way. It's basically the best way to describe it. Because it's turning and spinning as I'm going through it. The light is going extremely fast all around me, but it's not a straight line. It goes around and up and down and sideways, and no, it doesn't go sideways. It goes in it kind of goes in nice turns up and down and around, and it doesn't do loops. It just goes up and down and left to right and everywhere in between. But it's gradual. It's not like a sudden stop and turn. If you want to stop and turn, you have to stop into regular time and then start again, they said. That's possible as well, but you don't need to, because you can get anywhere you want through these gradual turns. Come to a stop. It's kind of, I'm looking at, it's going to take me a bit to get this. There's a lot of stuff going on here. They took me to it's like a place that very chaotic in a way, because chaotic isn't the right word, but there's debris everywhere. There was a planet that was heavily damaged, destroyed almost, by a comet, they said. But there's a bigger planet here. And this was one of the moons. And this has many, many, many moons. But the moons, in a way, act like it gives the planet protection. And the moons, they can be controlled. They have the ability to move the moons, and the moons are lifeless rocks. So they have the ability to move the rocks in the way of things that are coming towards the planet. So they use the moons as protective barriers. So if there's a comet coming, they will put the moon in the way of the comet, and then the worlds get obliterated. But for some reason, because I'm asking this question, okay, if that's the case, then how come the debris doesn't come down and hit the world? It's something to do with magnetic forces, because they have the ability of creating. Now, this is interesting, because they're showing me a planet that has been recently hit by this comet, and it explodes outwards, but then stops, and then it gets pulled back into itself. And they force the planet back together again by using magnetism. But not just magnetism, it's also gravity in a way. But they say, no, it's not gravity, it's magnetism. Because the outer edge of this magnet, when something hits it, it blows up, but only goes so far, because the magnet in the center of the planet starts to get stronger and pulls all the pieces back into itself. So the magnetism isn't metal. There is metal in this, but it's not simply just attracted to metal. it's attracted to the rock itself. So you could say like it's a gravitational field, but they say it's done with magnetism. It's a better way to describe it so it's easier for people to understand. So when the planet gets hit, when the moon, I guess is a better way of putting it, gets hit, it explodes only to a certain radius and then is pulled back into itself. And the comet itself, the debris of the comet is actually pulled into the planet itself as well. And over time, so the planets itself are not what you would call a moon. They were moons, but they're dead moons, but they're designed to explode and reform. So they're almost like a best. I guess they're telling me it's like Legos. When you hit Legos, they explode, but you can always put them back together again. And this is what this is. But when they also put it back together again with the debris of the comet, becomes part of the planet itself as well. Because it pulls in the debris of everything within a certain radius. And if this, for instance, becomes unstable to the point where it doesn't work anymore, they will just send it into the sun. They can actually move these things around. It's pretty cool. There's some pretty massive engines that are attached to these that move them into. It takes time, but they're able to move these planets. They're able to stop them from, in a way, from even moving around the world itself, and intercept this, like things that are coming towards the planet. They really want me to focus on this initially. I haven't even been to the planet yet, but the planet is actually quite beautiful. It's really bright. There's a lot of water here. But they're just showing me how they live in an area that has a lot of debris. So they were able to pull the debris together to create these worlds that help protect the planet. It's like they're telling me, like, if you take a look at Saturn, it's like taking all the rings of Saturn and creating spheres of all the ice particles. And then they form a bunch of planets, a bunch of moons that now can be moved around and intercept things that are coming. And the reason they do this is a very effective way of preventing anything. And it's well beyond what we can do right now. But they're just wanting you to imagine the capability and the craftsmanship into creating something like this. And they want you to really think about what is possible for us as a human race, what we could accomplish by working together to create things like this. It doesn't have to be bombs, because what they're simply doing is saying is that a comet hits this place, it explodes and becomes in something else again. And they even show me when a comet hits, they send these like ships out and they investigate what the findings are of this comet, because sometimes they have very precious things on them. It could be asteroids as well, and it could be like natural resources that they could use. Fresh water is not a problem here because the planet is huge oceans. But there's also land. But the oceans are so noticeable. They're so blue. When these robots there's no human beings on them. They just go out, they do their work, and then they come back and they take anything that's worth something away. And then they pull the planet back together again. But the debris will only go so far, because if it starts to go too far away, the engine in the center of this will rev up and pull the pieces in closer. And then when they mine, basically, is the best way to describe it. Everything they need to mine from this, they pull everything back together. It's quite ingenious, actually, and quite interesting to experience. I set my focus to the world itself. There is huge stations around the planet, but it's down closer into the atmosphere. It's like it's all in low orbit. It's almost into the point where it's part of the atmosphere. They're telling me that they are in the outer parts of the atmosphere, so you could actually walk out and breathe on these stations, because they prefer to have them here instead of having them in space, because it's easier to keep, it's just said it's much easier and fresher to keep oxygen. And it's like, it's very fascinating. When I go onto one of these places that you're able to actually, you actually can walk out. It's like a balcony. But there's, how do they describe it? It's like this artificial air here, but they have like a barrier over it, because these are moving ridiculously fast. They're not stationary. They're moving around the planet. And you're able to look down through the glass. It's pretty, you obviously can't be afraid of heights here, because you walk out in this, it's like walking on air. But there's actually, it's not glass, they said, it's more like energy. And you're surrounded by this energy, but you're able to walk out and walk in. It's like you can walk out and experience it. But it's breathable air. And they're able to take the air right out of the atmosphere and make it stronger. And the gravity up here is created. How do they describe it? It's almost like this. In the center of this, there is like one of these magnetic fields that is created that pulls everything in towards it. But it's not necessarily pulling towards it. It pulls you to the floor. Is a kind of a best way to describe it. Like, you have this energy source in the center of this station, and it runs through the floors, the walls, the ceilings. And it basically powers everything, but it also creates gravity. So when it's along the ground, it pulls you to the floor, and you can actually change this setting. And there's actually places where they increase the gravitational pull in order to, how would you say, make yourself stronger. There's people that purposely increase the gravity in this area, and like, you can almost do it, and you're anywhere, and you could do it just in a workout area. Like, you could have a workout room, and you can change the actual gravity in that room to make it so it's harder to do. So when you're done, you're actually ridiculously strong and fast and agile. And that's exactly what it does. And this is a very, very, very common thing. They even do it in children. And people are able to jump ridiculously far. It'd be like going to the moon and then jumping. People can move ridiculously fast. It's actually fascinating. And this is a common practice. Everybody does this. It's a normal thing. And they love to do it with children as soon as they can. As soon as they're born, they start the process. And they don't do it all day. They only do it a certain time per day. And it's amazing. See, they describe this. They take the baby and they put the baby for quite a bit of time in this area, and as the baby's developing. And then when they take the baby out, the baby's able to walk a lot faster. So within months, the baby's walking. And it's like so they're saying in a normal human, you say it's the babies walk around 12 months. Some are 8 months, some are longer, some are shorter. These babies are walking about 2 months old. because of this process. It actually strengthens their muscles, their reflexes. It's unbelievable. But when they get older, my God, they're like almost like everybody on this planet. So they're able to work faster, stronger. And it's an interesting thing is when they do space travel, for instance, if something happens and they need to move quicker, they adjust it so they can move faster. It's really strange. It's like, they don't float, but they're able to adjust the gravity in a way that if they need to move quicker, they can move quicker. They can move faster throughout the ship. So if an emergency happens, they can adjust everything so they're moving ridiculously fast. This is really, really, really cool. And they say this is very possible when you understand magnetic fields and gravity to level and have the energy source that they're having. You're able to adjust things in a way that you didn't think you could. Like even in science fictions now, they don't really use this concept. And I'm not even sure if any of this is possible. I'm just telling you what I'm being shown. And it's quite fascinating. So the whole society is big part of the society is health. The planet is like, there's no pollution at all, zero. There's no industry like we would think of. They mine everything's mined from asteroids and everything else around the planet that's dead. They never ever mine anything that is living. If it's a living planet, they leave it alone. They don't mine their own planet. Obviously, Earth is hard because we haven't even left the Earth yet, but they're telling me the human race, as soon as possible, should shift the mining of the Earth and switch it to planets that are not living. Like the moon, like the asteroid belt, Mars. But Mars could become alive. So is that something that you want to do? Because terraforming is possible. Very possible. So I'm just looking at these people, the beings. They do walk on 2 feet. And what do they look like? I'm just going to close my eyes here. I'm going to go down, and I'm basically on the planet itself. I get off the space station and I go down into the planet. Going down into the planet is I'm free falling now. It's really warm here. It's like not hot, but it's warm. I see no ice on this planet. They moderate the temperature in the weather systems. They have complete control of the weather patterns throughout this planet. The reason they do this is to control the ecosystem. Because now, by controlling the ecosystem, and it's not done in a way to benefit the beings, it's to benefit the planet itself. So they don't have any storms. They keep everything in moderate temperature, and everything's full of life. It's like there's nothing dead here. There's no deserts. There's no what we would call ice. Except in some of the really high mountains, there is ice. And there's glaciers in the mountains as well. But they're all above, like, I would say 16,000 feet, 15,000 feet. Really tall mountains. I'm going through a valley that's it's kind of like a inlet, you could say. There's really, really tall mountains, and there's 2 massive glacier fed. It's a glacier fed area. The glaciers come right down to the water. No, they don't come down to the water. They feed the water. It's so when I'm actually coming from above, and the glaciers come right up to the edge of these mountains, and there's a sheer drop off on both sides. It's absolutely gorgeous, and there's massive waterfalls that flow from them. So because I'm looking at it from above. So the farther I go down, I realize there's massive waterfalls that flow into this, and it's like miles across, and it's this inlet that goes straight, and these glaciers come down up to a certain point, and obviously they melt, and they fall down into this valley as fresh water. It's extremely stunning, and it creates like mist all through this whole area. Even the mist, like as you're coming into it, you see a big mist, and you can go into the mist itself and come out the other side. And it opens up into it opens up like this, so the mountains are back here, and you come in through the mist, and you're in this huge city. So this is the entryway into the city, is through this mist, and when you come out of the mist, you're into a city, but it's nothing like I've ever seen. How do you describe this? It's just give me a minute, because I'm trying to grasp what exactly I'm looking at here. And when I come out of the other side of this mist, it's like an unbelievably beautiful sight. There's massive sculptures that are now going along the entryway, and they create a U. And they're huge structures, gigantic, like thousands of feet high. And they're sculptures, but they're actually people living in them. They're like buildings. And that's what's so confusing, is that when you first see this, is your mind's having a hard time grasping what you're looking at. Because these massive structures are thousands of feet tall. And this is the entryway into the city. And the city goes up and is built into the mountains itself. And there's just like the mountains, like you can have mountain peaks all around you. So you're coming in through the mist, and you see this massive structures. And around that and behind, there is huge mountains that go up to about, these mountains are probably 12, 13,000 feet tall. They're not as tall as these ones, but they're still really tall, and they're really sharp peaked. But there's structures built between the mountains. So the mountains itself are now, people live in them. And this in between, so they're all merged together into this artwork. And there's sculptures everywhere. And they're so big that there's trees growing out of them, and you don't even realize it till you get closer. So there's actual vegetation growing all over these things on different levels. Like there's one where you have like these hands coming out, and there's a massive tree in the palm of their hands. And the roots actually go down very far and go down into the water itself. Because it's like this is the entryway, and each one of these hands that come out have these massive trees, and their roots go down into the water. And you can travel between the trees, and the trees itself are part of the city itself. This is just the beginning of it. It's so hard to even see anything else besides this, because this is absolutely astonishing to look at. So what do the people look like that live here? I go into the base of this, and I walk through an archway, and I feel small. I feel really small. These archways are gigantic. And there's a creature here that walks past me that's probably 20 feet tall. But there's also another being that looks at me and calls me over. And I walk over to the being, and it has pale blue skin. And the eyes are yellow, and they're not huge, but they're like kind of slit, kind of like oval shaped, and they blink like a lizard's eyes, but they're not lizards. But they're not really humanoid either. They're humanoid, but features, they have like, this specific one has like fins, not fins, like they're not spikes either. They're very beautiful. They're like ridges, I guess is the best way to describe it, all the way down its back. It doesn't have a tail though. And they really don't wear any clothes. There's no need for it. They're not really male or female like we would think of. They don't really have genitalia like us. And they're calling me over. That big being that walks across just keeps walking and walks, just keeps walking. It's like a very gentle, very long, skinny thing. And you can see the legs go by, and it's like super tall, and you just kind of, it's gone now, but I just seen the legs, and they're very thin, almost like a giraffe in a way. It's kind of like that, but it's bigger, much, much bigger than a giraffe, but it's an animal. And then nobody cares. It's normal for that to be here. And this being is humanoid and has very beautiful colorations. It's like, it's pale blue, but there's white areas, and there's also yellow as well that highlight their eyes really nicely. And they speak. They don't, and when they speak, it's kind of like, it's very lizard-like. They're not lizards, but they're almost like a cross between a human and a lizard, because their tongue is kind of like a lizard. You could see them that they would probably eat insects and be perfectly fine with it. And I'm looking at this specific one, and he can change, this is a male, and he can change color if he needs to. He can turn green, actually. But they prefer to have this bluish color. There's a female coming, and all his colors turn, like, it's almost like when they see the female, the colors automatically start to shift to richer, brighter colors. Like there's reds now here that appear, especially around the ridges on the back. And it's almost like a sign of respect, actually. And the woman comes over, and she's like kind of like a golden hue to her. Very golden yellowish color. It's very yellow and golden in color. And her eyes are very, like, she's almost monotone. Like almost like a golden lizard. And he actually is really ridiculously bright now. And he actually kind of bends, like kind of like curtsies in a way, a sign of respect to her. And the woman looks at me and acknowledges me. And she says, "Thank you for coming to our planet." And I said, "You can see me normally." And she says she gets visitors here sometimes. She can sense us. She likes when we come here because it actually helps people to think outside the box. And it helps our race. She knows of our race because of people that come, and we're drawing to this place, and she's aware of us. and she's willing to help. But we got a long way to go yet. And she wants us to see this magnificent place where nature and artisans, like the artwork here is beautiful. It's like there's such beautiful beings because they can shift color, and they don't need to have clothing because they do have jewelry though. They do wear accents to enhance their beauties, but it's done, they don't need clothes because the temperature is so moderate. The clothing is not necessary, and why would you hide the beautiful colorations? And she smiles at me because she's appreciative that I'm recognizing how beautiful that is, how freeing that is. And this is one of the reasons why they wanted to moderate the temperature so they can grow and expand the world around them. So it enhances all life. She says there really wasn't much of ice here anyway. It's only up into the higher mountain areas. So the planet itself was already moderated. They moderate the temperature more and the weather systems more to enhance life that grows. So the desert regions were brought back to a much nicer climate. So they grew life. Well, life didn't exist. And by doing so, enhanced their society, enhanced where people could live, or expanded where people could live. But it's the way they're living is so beautiful. They do wear this specific one, like the male, he has like I guess his forearms have metal around them, and he has like a necklace that is very ornate that has multiple colors in it. But it's kind of like they're not able to teleport, so to speak, but they're able to communicate to anybody on the world by simply just thinking and saying who they want to talk to, and that person will appear in front of them, like a holographic images. Very detailed holographic images, actually. And it doesn't matter if it's in bright light or dull light. They will get a holographic image of an actual what that person is and who they're talking to. The tongue itself is very difficult to explain. They don't speak like me, but they do speak with their minds very strongly. They're very telepathic. And they communicate mostly through telepathy, but they do speak with their tongues. But it's nothing. I can't even begin to describe it. It's not like a snake either. I can't begin to describe it because it's more like just specific sounds and structures are so unique. It's like a combination of speaking and clicking and just humming. No, like it's not humming. It's like a song. And she goes, yes, more like a song. It is like songs in a way, but not. It's like when you're speaking, it's not like singing a song. It's like tones of a song. Very short ones though. It's very beautiful. She wants to show me something. And he actually nods in acknowledgement and thanks me for just noticing him and appreciating his beauty. Like they love beauty because they're not, how would you say, conceited. But they do love beauty. They love themselves because they love the colors. They love bright colors. They love the colors of nature. And so when they build their cities, they're artisans in a way. This whole city is one massive, beautiful work of art. And they're proud of it. Like each city has competitions of how beautiful, like a new piece or a new this or a new that. But they don't, the competitions are meant to share their understanding of the understanding of technology and beauty and art is so powerful in their society that even their ships that fly in the sky are super orientated. Like this attention to detail is astonishing because they put love into everything they build. They don't build simply they build for practicality, but also beauty. Beauty is one of the most important things. Why would you build something that was just simply boring? It's like if you go back into the 50s and in the 60s, things were so much more innate. And then we lost our way. And we started building things just for the hell of it. Like going back for thousands of years, people put pride in what they built. This is one of the things we lost that they say we need to bring back to our society because it brings, it nourishes their imagination. It helps your soul to feel alive. Because if you build something that's dead inside, it actually kills the society itself. So the more we build dead things, the more death will be inside our souls, inside our hearts. We're killing ourselves by snuffing out our imaginations. She's showing me something that, again, it's pretty ornate. It's hard to grasp right yet. And she holds my hand, and it's like her hand is surprisingly smooth. And she actually changes herself to fit more like a human being because she reads what I would feel comfortable with and creates an illusion. It is an illusion because I said, don't change yourself. She says she's not changing herself for me. She's changing herself to show the people that are listening that they can actually look like anybody and anything. This is what this jewelry is, not simply for beauty, even though it is absolutely gorgeous. It's actually functionable. It creates, like that's why the holograms are so detailed, because it creates, like holograms would also create a hologram around yourself. So you could blend into anything. So you could actually become a tree and blend into the tree itself in a way. Blend right into the bark, like so they could completely hide from anybody that came here. They could hide their whole cities from people if they needed to. And even slow their heartbeats down to such a level that they wouldn't even be able to recognize that there was any living thing on this planet. That's what's so astonishing. Even the things in space could be shut down. So people would think, that's another reason why they can blow up these things to protect themselves from other places or other beings that might want to hurt them. They can actually create the planets to explode all around them, so all they see is debris. They like to be left alone. They can travel throughout the universe if they wish, but there's something about the beauty of discovery of themselves, of the planets, of the art. And they do travel, but only once in a while. And if they do, they travel for generations. And then this generational ship comes back with all this new knowledge that they share with the whole world. And we walk into this area, and it's water everywhere. There's fountains and water, and they're showing me this because this reminds me of something I was shown one time. There's actually water flowing through the air with living things swimming through it. And there's nothing around them, but there is. There's like an invisible barrier around these things. So it's like an aquarium, you could say, that can be shaped in any shape you want, but you can't see the glass because it's energy that's around it. So what is the energy? She says, how do I describe the energy source? It's like, she says she says the best way to describe it is nuclear fusion. There's a fusion reactor that creates energy constantly, but it's actually not just fusion, it's splitting and fusing constantly inside this thing. But there's absolutely no radiation coming from it because it's completely shielded. There's actually not even any radioactive anything coming from this. So it's done in a way that the energy and waste that is being produced is constantly broken down and reused. She says that's the best way to describe it. And it creates so much damn energy that an orb the size of a baseball, or no, it'd be more like they say more like a basketball, can run the whole city. But the ones they use for the space stations, because it takes so much power to keep them in that area, and the planets are the size of a square mile. They're massive. But they're unbelievably powerful. And they give absolutely no radiation. It is amazing. They say the master of fusion isn't quite. They still need they still prefer natural resources from other things because it has memory attached to it. This is interesting. Memory. So they're able to take the memories in a way, for instance, an asteroid hits, they're able to take the memory out of that. But it's something about the memory of the item itself that is special. So that's why they always search when something hits one of these things, they search for natural resources, because they don't really they can create almost anything except the memory of what it is that they're seeking, of what that experience, they should say, that item. The memory. Interesting. I ask how many beings there is on this planet, and she says there's mainly two distinct species, the females and the males. Like, her energy is different than the males. Like, she gives off different colors, and the males give off another. And they are obviously the same species, but there's many, many, many species on this world. But they're the most sentient ones. But there's many other ones as well. They consider all life sacred. That's why they spend so much time on creating a perfect world so life can flourish. There's no need for predators anymore. It's almost like they've learned to tame the world. Part of their job is to tame creatures that once were predators and tame them in a way that you don't need to be predators anymore. It's almost like they taught everything to coexist on the planet. And that was a big, 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 long journey to do that. But it was a challenge that they decided to try to do. And they're still working on the oceans, but they're getting very, very, very close. And it's creating such a peaceful, on land, anybody can go anywhere and never have to worry about anything at all. And massive creatures just walk like just through the city itself, and like nothing. Nobody cares. And there's so many intelligent creatures on this planet. Like, they're aware. It's almost like they enhanced the intelligence. And they're actually saying, yes, that's one of the things that they did, is they enhanced the intelligence of Eving and a lot of the creatures, which was how they were able to take a lot of the killer instinct out of them. They wish they could come to our planet to take that part out of us, to teach us. It's like almost like the more intelligent we become, the more less likely we want to kill each other. They're saying it's almost barbaric, our planet. To them, it's barbaric. Because why would you want to kill another creature of your own species? They understand the importance of food, but they've long surpassed any need to have to eat, like farm, for instance. Everything is just completely be made with their fusion technology. It's a really, really, it's unbelievable how it's simply all they would have to speak is what they want, and the jewelry that they have around them would create the food for them. It's actually quite astonishing. I think that's where I'm going to leave it, guys. And she thanks me for coming. And I wanted just to give you an example of another planet in the universe. And it's a very fascinating journey, actually. I really enjoyed that. And experience the love and the beauty. And how would you describe what they look like? It's a mix between human. There's a lot of human features, but there was no like breasts or genitalia. They were definitely more. They were lizard-like in a way, but they weren't really, because they were very humanoid looking. But absolutely gorgeous. The colorations and the way the tones fell off their bodies was absolutely gorgeous to look at. And they could change it. And they could become whatever you wanted them to be. And the jewelry they wore. Oh. It's because the society was based on bettering and understanding of the whole planet. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day. And if you wish to do a journey with me, you can visit my website at AmonRastAwakening.com, and you can visit my Northern Light pages at Joseph Bradley Auroras and HiddenAuroraSpirits.com. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant day.